Hey, this is Reginald Perryman. ReggieIsRealEstate.com. So people are always calling me for rental properties, and they're having such a hard time finding properties to rent. I don't personally service that business. I have agents and team members that handle properties for lease and for rent. But I'm going to break down why you're having a difficult time finding a property to rent. So just listen. We're going to look at some details here, and this will give you a breakdown of why it's so hard for you to find a rental property. So one of the main reasons is because last year we had a lot of eviction bans, and eviction filings were down because either you couldn't file for eviction, or if you did file for an eviction, you still couldn't have the tenant evicted out of the property. So in other words, you can file the paperwork, but you couldn't send a bailiff out. So a lot of landlords said, hey, why bother filing in the first place? So although this may have been good for the person that's living there, the tenant who couldn't afford to pay their rent, but on the flip side, this is impacting you, the person that's looking for a place to rent. And I'm going to show you how. So just imagine eviction filings are down 65%. So let's say you had 10 properties with bad tenants, and the landlords would normally go in and file for an eviction. Well, in this case, only 3 of them went through with the process, but probably none of them were able to actually evict those tenants. But let's just say, best case scenario, out of those 10 properties, 6 landlords said, no, we're not filing. The other 3 filed and were successful. That means normally there will be 10 properties for you to choose from. Well, now you only have 3. And just like the housing market with buyers, you're competing against other potential tenants that are looking to rent. So you're competing on the same 3 properties that are available, right? This means that some landlords are probably going to raise their rents because they want to eliminate some of their risks, because they're taking on more risks in this market. Also, they're going to be more strict on their requirements and qualifications. So now you have all of these people competing for the same 3 properties, but guess what? The price is being driven up, and the qualification standards and requirements are being increased or more difficult for some tenants. Let's look at another reason. So here it says, if you can see here, it says based on the average numbers, normally you would have 1 eviction filing for every 6 tenant occupied properties, right? So if that's a factor of 1 in 6, let's say there was 60 homes that had tenants in them. On average, 10 of those people would get evicted, which means 10 properties would come to the market. Now let's go back to the previous percentage that I mentioned. So if those 10 properties would normally come to the market, based on what we just seen, only 3 would come to the market in this scenario. So again, you have an issue where there's low supply and high demand, and the landlords get to determine who they accept as a new tenant. But a lot of them are gun shy because they don't necessarily want to take the risk that they would have taken a year or so ago because of the eviction bans. The other reason, a lot of these landlords are just saying, hey, if I can't evict bad tenants, why be a landlord at all? Especially when the market value of the home has increased, I'm just going to sell the property. So again, let's go back to those 10 properties. 6 didn't bother with eviction. 3 or 4 of those people said, hey, I was able to evict. What I'm going to do with the property? Let's say 2 of them just decided to sell. That only leaves 1 or 2 properties left on the market available for rent. So you see where this is going? The demand and the supply of properties is off balance, just like in the buyer's market that we've seen this within the past 12 months for buyers. The other thing I don't think the government officials considered when they start putting these eviction bans in place is how it would impact you as someone going out looking for a property to rent. In addition to that, normally we would have investors jumping into the market to buy properties because they want to buy properties that they can rent out and earn monthly income. Well, since it's an eviction ban, some, but not all, but some investors are deciding, hey, we're not going to invest in real estate right now. We're just going to hold off unless we can find an absolutely sweet deal, because they don't want to invest in something that they're not going to get a return on their investment in. So you have landlords that are a little scared, or investors that are a little scared to buy and rent out properties. You have current investors, landlords that have properties. Some are choosing to sell even with the tenants in them, and some other investor may be willing to take that risk at a discount. And then you have tenants that are occupying properties that aren't paying a dime. But in the meantime, you have people like you that are looking to rent a property, and there's simply not enough rental properties available because of the trickle-down effects of the eviction ban. So this is Reginald Perryman, ReggiusRealEstate.com. Just giving you a quick breakdown of why it's so difficult to find a property to rent.
Pardon me, but does anyone in the audience know somebody that has a house to rent?